Hi, and welcome to In Search of the Divine. I'm Ann Thompson, and today we're going to be talking about escape. For me, to escape is going for a walk by the river or watching an old movie. But the people we're talking to today escaped from Cambodia, Ethiopia, and Tibet, and their difficult journeys have a lot to teach us. So stay tuned. Shegitu will soon complete her college degree. She is an author, homeowner, and runs her own restaurant. Her harrowing journey may be difficult to hear.
It was not a pleasant change, and it was not a willingly exchange or sit around the table talk kind of a change. The change was gone. You take it or not, kind of. And so a lot of killing, a lot of imprisonment, a lot of things going on. You know, when they torture, if they have a man need to be tortured, they take his female family member and they torture them in front of him, rape them, cut their fingers, cut their breast, you know, cut their toes, take the young boys and hang them upside down, have a bucket of water with electric wire in it and torture them, dipping them in and out. So it was unhuman situation going on in my country, and I was 17 at the time.
In the early 1970s, the Ethiopian government underwent major changes, writes Shegitu in her book, Visible Strengths, Hidden Scars. Families with more than one home or over a quota of farmland had their land confiscated and were accused of imperialism because the principles of socialism relied on collective ownership. In the city I grew up in, the farmers didn't want the land to be taken away, so they started a war. The civil war involving Ethiopia, Somalia, and Eritrea continued for years.
They didn't have anyone who's volunteering to be a soldier, so they kidnapped boys, kidnapped any man they see on the street with a gun, and they just take you and they force you to be a soldier. And I have my older brother have been taken that way. That was when he was 16, and I think I was 11, 10. I have never seen him since then. And so I have two younger brothers, and I wanted to protect them. And I got married at the young age, and I was pregnant at the age of 17. And when the war broke, I ran with other neighbors, and we ended up in Kenya. And so my journey was 17 and a half, a child in a stomach, nothing in my hand, no bag, no water, no food. I have to hide during the day, so both sides of the soldiers, the Kenyan soldiers find you, they turn you over, the Ethiopian soldiers find you, they kill you. There is no going to the court or any kind of justice. Anyone who find you, who feel like they are authority, they kill you. So what you do is you hide yourself during the day. You take the risk of being eaten by animals, so you walk by night. And so 3 months journey, hiding during the day, walking during the night. That was my journey to get to Kenya. And by the grace of God, I made it. And I have my child in a refugee camp. He is 24 right now. Thank God he's wealthy, healthy, good human being, part of the society, productive. And I have another daughter after I came here. My husband came and we reunited and have another child, 18. She's in college, studying pre-med.
Shegitu is surprisingly open about her journey. After 2 years in Nairobi, she was granted asylum in the U.S. and moved to Fargo in North Dakota. It was a time of love and support. It was a time of loneliness and tears. While there, she reunited with her husband, but the relationship turned abusive. Suffering from depression and back issues, she contemplated suicide, but knew she could not leave her children. She wrote, "There is nothing more important than my family and God."
So when I put my life on the weight, on the scale, I see so much good things has happened to me. You know, who am I to live in this country? I have been so blessed, where so many of my friends and people that I knew have been killed on the journey. They're still there and struggling. And who am I to be picked out of there? I'm living in a land of a blessed. You know, my children goes to school. I have a safe place to live. I have a business that I could run. And all this is a gift to me.
Today, Shegitu helps other women, many of them immigrants, find ways to deal with loss and loneliness, domestic abuse and depression. And while each of these successes is a lesson in itself, she knows the greatest lesson is one she must practice every day.
A journey like this taught me, for me, forgiveness. To be healed, you know, I have been raped 3 times on that journey. I have been imprisoned. You know, I lost 2 brothers and mother and father. I don't know any other family members because my older family members have been killed, so I have no way of connection. We don't have a social security system that you find your family. So I have left without a family. But God have blesses me with 2 children. And for me to pass on something to them, I didn't want to pass bitterness. I didn't want to pass anger. I didn't want to pass pain. I want to pass to them forgiveness. I'm a Christian, so the Bible taught me that even though I don't know Him, God have loved me and forgive me enough to give me His Son on my behalf. And if I'm worthy enough to receive that forgiveness, who am I not to give another human being? So I taught my children the importance of forgiveness. And I have forgiven the people who have done me wrong. And I believe because of that, I became who I am today. I have no anger, you know, I have no bitterness towards these people whatsoever. I rather pray for them because I have forgiven them. I understood forgiveness is not so much about the person you forgive, it's about the person who forgiving. Because I have forgiven, I have given a joy, I have given a peace. I could sleep at night. And so I believe I have learned from my journey forgiveness. And also I have learned from my journey that human can hurt you, at the same time can heal you. Healing comes only from human being, because God is not going to walk on earth and heal you. He uses people. And from my journey, from the minute I left home and traveled all through this, what I went through, you know, the people who host me in a refugee camp, even though I didn't have the best life, I have seen human kindness. When I came to this country, the strangers that I don't know who sponsor me, that's a kindness. Throughout my life here, the people that I became to know and who became my friends, who have been stood next to me and prayed for me and helped me teach me a language or teach me how to get around and help me on my business plan and things like that. This is a blessing. So I have learned that I need to value human being. I need to see people as individual, who they are, for what they are, you know. And so that's my attitude, and that's what I have learned from my journey.
Thupten's retail store in the Linden Hills area of Minneapolis is filled with spiritual and cultural items from his native Tibet and the surrounding areas. His story of escape are recalled through a child's eyes.
I'm from Tibet. 1959, Chinese occupied Tibet, and my parents escaped from Tibet 1959, same time as His Holiness Dalai Lama did. And I was probably 7 years old at the time. And so we'll give up everything, our land and everything, and we'll try to survive our life and come out Tibet as our probably around 10,000 Tibetans escaped at the time.
Tucked between the ancient civilizations of China, Nepal, and India is Tibet. Sometimes called the roof of the world or the land of the snows, it is cupped by mountain ranges and plateaus. The neighborly and not so neighborly dance between China and Tibet dates back to the 7th century. But when the Chinese decided to occupy the country in 1959, it resulted in death, destruction, and displacement for tens of thousands.
I remember escaping from part of crossing Mount Everest region through Nepal. And so the elderly community and parents are very, very, very sad, and they give up their own land and own country. And it sticks me in my memory. I don't know how much I'm suffering at the time, but I do remember the elderly people have very emotional and crying and things like that.
The incursion resulted in the destruction of most of Tibet's more than 6,000 monasteries. Reportedly, thousands of Buddhist monks and nuns were killed, tortured, or imprisoned. Unprepared to match the Chinese military, unarmed Tibetans surrounded the Dalai Lama's residence, Tibet's spiritual and then political leader. He fled to India, where he still resides. Monastic estates were broken up, secular education was introduced, and many of Tibet's Buddhist cultural sites were vandalized or destroyed. Refugees Thupten and his family made their way from Nepal and eventually to India, where the Dalai Lama established orphanage schools.
Went just a basic school, and then I joined the Buddhist monastery. They special developed a voice called Protector of Yamantaka, which means one of the Buddhist protector, and so very, very deep. And then late 80s, then I doing service as a monk in Dharamsala, which is in India. And then I start learning English, and then I have some Western teachers who teach English, and I teach them Tibetans. And then some point, then I decided to change my life and wants to come west. So I came to Minnesota in 1986.
Today, Thupten travels regularly to Tibet, Nepal, and India. His journey from child refugee to monk to businessman in the U.S. have revealed some interesting insights. Insights about violence.
Dalai Lama says violence is a cycle of violence. There's no end. There are ignorance. And if someone is ignorant, you have to show a better way to teach them how to be a good person, how to be a good, compassionate one. You can't take action in a violence like as they do. They're never going to learn it in the first place.
And insights about compassion.
In Tibetan, we have traditional to say, if you have some obstacle comes, then there is opportunity to change it better. Obstacle can be transformed in a better path. Compassion and kindness are all of those spirituality, basic foundation. And if you don't have that, then it doesn't matter what kind of religion you have. But that some ways it learn from difficulties. And so this is a kind of transformation. And spirituality path is based on compassion and kindness and learning to teach others, be compassionate. So what else better than that?
Vina lives in a quiet St. Paul neighborhood. A college graduate with academic honors, she owns her own home and operates her own business. But few know her difficult journey to this place.
My life was so beautiful when I was born until I reached 17 years old. And then my life changed because the Khmer Rouge took over the country in 1975.
The Khmer Rouge were followers of the Communist Party of Kampuchea, who ruled Cambodia from 1975 to 1979. Attempting to create a purely agrarian society, their social engineering policies and fear of free market activities resulted in mass genocide and the deaths of 3.3 million people.
I would tell you this one time that when we were forced out of the capital, out of the house. I was lost in the forest by myself. I was 17 years old, and there was a Khmer Rouge soldier was going to rape me. And this situation like this, if happened to somebody else, nobody can get away. But for me, this is a true story. I begged him. I said, please don't touch me. I'm an innocent person. And I just begged him. You know what he told me? I run fast and don't look back. And that's what I ran back and found my parents back, yeah. And that's why I said that not only one time, too many times that I've almost killed, but nobody ever touched me. Yeah, I left the house with my family that time during the Civil War. And then during the Khmer Rouge regime, only 3 years, 8 months, and 20 days, my father was killed. I think probably 40 family members were killed. And all I know that in Cambodia, no matter what, you say I'm innocent, they kill you anyway. So they're not going to listen. So that's why I make my own decision that either I stay there and claim that I'm innocent and get killed, and we don't know when, or I risk myself to leave the country alone and find something to do.
Alone and fearing for her life, she came to the United States and was granted asylum.
And I was so worried. The thing I worried the most, like how to take care of myself. All I did this that time, like just pray that nobody touch me at all.
Eventually, Vina found her way to Sarah's, an oasis for women, a women's shelter founded by the Sisters of St. Joseph of Carondelet. There, she was welcomed by Sister Jinnah.
When she first came, Vina had a sadness that was just all pervasive. And when she was up and around, she wept all the time. And then she would go to bed and she slept for days. She would be in her room for days, and we would just check to be sure that she was all right. And when she came out of her room once again, she would be weeping. So she was had the deepest sadness that I had ever seen in a person.
I remember very well. She said, she opened the refrigerator and she said, this food, that's yours. You can eat that when you're hungry. You don't need to ask anybody because it's yours. So that day, I was crying. I say, and I didn't realize, I didn't believe that there's a kindness and exist. But for a while, it's still like, you know, when our life gone through the drama, no matter how, that thing never go away. When you try to tell you, say you'll be okay, never okay. Even now, I still have a nightmare. I still have nightmare, I still run.
In her quiet, steady, focused way, she was able to accomplish more than anyone would have ever imagined that Vina would have accomplished in that time. She's a graduate, as she said, of the University of St. Catherine. She owns her own car. She owns her own home. She's a citizen of the United States, and she has a joy about her that is contagious. I've learned from Vina that each one of us must allow others to assist us. We can't despair when circumstances are overwhelming and when it looks like we'll never make it anywhere. I think that we learn from Vina to live with a heart of gratitude for what we have, to have the will and the courage to persevere when things are just overwhelming.
I knew that I had to give up a lot of things. Give up family, friend, house, job, everything that I had, I owned after the war. But it's not important anymore, because that lesson I learned many times at the young age, when I was 17, that I knew that property is nothing, money is nothing. I never give up. That's the thing about me. I never give up hope. I don't give up hope at all.
We heard some amazing stories today. And one of the takeaways for me is that no matter how difficult life can get, when you come through the other side, there's opportunity for amazing growth. We'll see you next time on In Search of the Divine.